Notes. This is actually going to feel a little bit like a review of 8.3 because you can actually use box or FOIL or distributive method to multiply what we're going to do today. But I just wanted to show you that there are sometimes special cases of certain binomials, talking about the squares of them. And if you know this shortcut, you can multiply these a lot quicker. So here's what I want you to see in this key concept. The square of a binomial, so what they're saying is if you square the whole binomial, so let's say you have a plus b and you square it. So the square of a binomial is the square of its first term, so like a squared, plus twice the product of the two terms. Okay, let's talk about what twice the product of the two terms is. So if I multiply, because I hope you guys remember that the word product means multiply. So if I multiplied a and b, I know there's a plus sign in between it, just ignore it for right now. If I just multiplied them, a and b, it would be ab. And I want to do twice that. So twice ab would just be 2ab. Because it's twice if I squish them together and multiply, plus the square of its last term, which the last term is b. So if I square that, it would be b squared. So without doing any math, if you're squaring something in parentheses that's just a binomial, you can square the first term, multiply the 2 and then double it, and then square the last term and you're done. Okay, same thing happens if it's a minus. You can square the first term, so a squared is just a squared. If you squish these together and multiply, you have to assume that's actually a negative 1b. So negative 1b times a is just negative ab. So twice that would be negative 2ab, and then taking your last term b and squaring it. Here are some examples with it actually being numbers instead of all variables. So x squared, and then if you squish these together and multiplied, 4 times x is 4x, and you doubled 4x, you would get 8x. And then you square the last term, 4 squared is 16. So again, you don't have to know this shortcut, because what you could do, let's say you had no idea this was a thing. So try to not look at this answer for the x minus 3 squared. Let's say you had no idea that I was showing you this cool shortcut. What you could do is, I want you to see that x minus 3 squared just means x minus 3 is written out 2 times. So x minus 3 times x minus 3 is what this squared is saying. It's saying I want the whole parentheses term x minus 3 twice. So I want an x minus 3 here times an x minus 3 here. And you could FOIL it or box it if you want. So x times x is x squared. Outsides would be negative 3x, insides would be negative 3x, and negative 3x is negative 6x. Those are like terms. And then last times last, negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. So we could have just FOILed this or boxed it and gotten the same thing that you got. But if you know that the trick is to square the first term, multiply the terms and then double it, and then square this last term, it's a lot less work. It's just a cool little thing that happens when you're squaring a whole binomial set. So let's try a couple of these. So for letter A, if you square the first term, it would be x squared. If you multiply x and 8, it's 8x. And I want to double 8x. If you double 8x, it is 16x. And then 8 times 8, if you square the last term, which is 8 squared, it is 64. So that to me is a lot quicker than having to separate them out and doing the whole FOIL or box method. But again, if you don't remember that, if you're like, I don't know the little trick, all this is saying is 2m minus 3 and another 2m minus 3. So if you're taking a quiz and you're like, I don't remember all the little tricks, do you multiply, do you add, I can't remember, just go ahead and do this. Make 2 of them, 2m minus 3, and another one, 2m minus 3. And if your favorite method is the box method that we learned in the previous lesson, go ahead and do 2m minus 3 and 2m minus 3. And you set this whole thing up and you will get the exact, oh, that's not right. the exact same answer that I'm going to get. I'm trying to talk and do this at the same time, which is hard for me. Don't forget these are your like terms. But that's why we're doubling it. Like we went ahead and just knew it was going to be 16x over here because we were doing this part in our head. So the final answer would be 4m squared minus 6m is minus 12m. See how that got doubled? And then plus 9. So I don't want you to see this and be like, I can't remember all the little things I'm supposed to do. You could just set them up as two different binomials and use your favorite method and you'll get the same answer. But if you know the shortcuts, they just go a little quicker. So if you want to, push pause and try the you try. Otherwise, you can keep it playing and check it. I will work it out with you too. All right, so I would square the first number, which n squared is just n squared. I would multiply the two together, which negative 7 times n is negative 7n, and then I would double it. So negative 7n doubled is negative 14n. And then square the last one. That, by the way, is a negative 7. And if you square negative 7 times negative 7, and negative times negative makes it positive. So you need to be sure you put a plus 49 here. Okay. And then this last one. So the tricky part about, I probably should have worked out this one up here so you could see what happens. When you square a 2m, you're squaring the 2 and the m. So down here, when I'm squaring 2x, it would not be just 2x squared. It would be 2 squared and x squared. So when I square the first term, it should be 4x squared. And maybe I wouldn't have made that mistake if I would have separated them out and done box method or FOIL method to check. So doing something like this that shows a little more work is a safe bet. It's a good call. But for those of you who like to do this in your head and to know shortcuts, that's what this lesson is all about. So if you multiply the two terms, 2x and 9, you would get 18x. And I want to double it. So 18x and 18x, I have no idea what that is. It's like 36. Good. So plus 36x. And then I'm going to square my last term, which is 9. So 9 squared is 81. And again, if you want to do that with FOIL method or distributive or box method, it all would work out the same. Okay, the last and really, I think, kind of most interesting one is when you have two binomials that are opposites, like you have an a plus b and an a minus b, those middle terms, if you were to FOIL it, would completely drop out because they'd be opposites. So if you think about it, a times negative b is negative ab, and b times a is positive ab. And if you have minus ab and plus ab, those are opposites. They would cancel each other out. So all you're left with is your firsts, which are a times a, which is a squared, and your lasts, which are b times negative b, which is negative b squared. So you're foiling, your o and your I term drop out. So this is going to be really cool too. If you have the exact same binomial, but one is adding and one is subtracting, all you actually have to do is square the first terms and then square the last terms. And that is it, because like I said, the middle two terms drop out. Up here, we had to double the middle two terms. But if they are opposites, they're going to cancel each other out. And it's just going to leave you with the first term squared and the last term squared. Okay, so let's try this. X squared plus 8 times x squared minus 8. Again, these are the exact same binomials, but one is adding it and one is subtracting it. So your middle terms are going to drop out. They're going to cancel out and be 0. So the shortcut is I just have to multiply the firsts, which x squared times x squared is x to the 4th. And I have to multiply the lasts. 8 times negative 8 is negative 64. And that's all there is to it. If you were to box method or FOIL, your outside terms would be negative 8x squared and inside term would be positive 8x squared. And a negative 8x squared plus a positive 8x squared is 0. They cancel out, which is why all we have is the first and the last. All right, so first and the last again. So x squared minus 81. It's super cool if you know some of these shortcuts. And again, if you don't and you work it out and you want to do the box method, do it. Totally fine. It's also always good to show work if you're not sure, if you just want to. All right, so push pause and try the you try. If you're not quite ready for the you try, I can do this with you. The firsts in these are 36. And the lasts are minus m to the 4th. All right. For this one, the firsts, and again, the only reason this works is because it's 3c minus 4 and 3c plus 4. So those are just the same binomial, but one is subtracting and one is adding. So 3c times 3c is 9c squared. The outsides and the insides are going to cancel out, and it's going to leave me with the lasts, which are negative 4 times positive 4, which is negative 16.